Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have 20 Patriotic Dollar Tree DIYs for you. I have lots of fun decor pieces that I think is going to be perfect to celebrate America 250. This is the wind chime kit that I actually got the little wood circle from. I'm going to use that, 2 of the wood boxes from the Dollar Tree, one with a star cut out because I thought that would be really fun for the 4th of July. And I'm going to actually put those together. And I kind of wanted to cover up the handle holders here in this one. And I do have some of the wood dominoes from Dollar Tree from the toy section. I haven't found these forever, but I love crafting with these. But it's probably not necessary, but I am going to go ahead and close this up. At least from the inside by hot gluing those over the handles. And the reason I am going to leave the stars open is because, of course, that's festive for the 4th of July, right? What I want to do is also try to seal this from the outside, and I have found that using masking tape actually works pretty well for this. I've built other items like this before. What we're building today is a Patriotic Wheelbarrow planter. So I have another DIY video where I made a little red wagon for the 4th of July that I filled with fireworks. And so this is kind of a bigger project than that, but I love how it turned out. So just using a couple pieces of masking tape on both sides, trying to make sure they kind of start and stop at the corner. That's going to be an easier transition for the tape. And just trying to clean up any excess tape on that. I want a big, like, looking planter, so I'm going to stack 2 of these on top of each other to make it look bigger for my wheelbarrow. And the little ship wheel is actually going to be the wheel for the front of it. So I want to attach these together. Since this is going to be outdoors, I kind of wanted to weigh down the bottom. And since there's not going to be anything in that part, I thought Dollar Tree rocks would be perfect. So I just put some rocks in there to weigh it down so the wind doesn't blow it over was my intention with that. I like to weigh down my outdoor DIYs if I can. And then I do a bead of hot glue all the way around on the top edge, and we are going to sit the star tray on top. I did make sure these were almost exactly the same size. I noticed there's a lot of size variations with these, but I got pretty close here. I do want to try to cover the seam here between the 2 wood boxes too, but I don't want to cover up that star. So I'm going to try to go below that and just try to cover up that seam a little bit more with the masking tape. And try to make it look like one big planter box. Now it's time to start painting everything. This DIY has lots of pieces and things going on, so I wanted to get a head start on painting everything. So I'm using like a fire red acrylic. I want this to be a bright red wheelbarrow, and we're actually going to be doing a flag design on the sides as well with Dollar Tree napkins again. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint the sides. I'm going to paint the bottom. I'm even going to paint the inside just because I want it to be a really finished product. And next year, if I want to use it for something else, like not a planner, I'll already have like a painted red inside. And so I won't have to worry about that if you could see it. But today we're going to be using it for a planter. So just painting the inside is going to be a little bit extra. I did notice that the masking tape didn't take the paint quite as well, so I did go over the masking tape with another coat of red. And then I'm just doing the top. At first I wasn't going to do the inside, but I'm glad that I did. It just makes it look so much more finished. And also using a smaller brush, I'm going to just kind of paint the inside of the stars as well. I want to do a red, white, and blue wheelbarrow DIY for this. And so this is the wheelbarrow part where it's going to be the planter. So I'm going to make it red. I'm going to make the wheel navy. And then I'm going to make like the handles white for my red, white, and blue theme for this. And it just turned out so cute. It took me a while to put this DIY together, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. So these are little bamboo pieces that I actually get on Amazon. I love the fact that they're flat, but you could always use dowels or whatever you have for this. They're also nice and long, so they're longer than popsicle sticks. I do have these linked in my Amazon shop. I craft with these things all the time. I really love them. I am painting them white acrylic. The bamboo is kind of like a little bit feels like it's kind of sealed, so it does take a couple of coats to get those good and white. And then this is the flag napkins that I picked up at the Dollar Tree that I want to use on the sides. So it's a little shorter than the side of the wood crate, but that's okay. And I really didn't mean to paint the sides of them that we're going to have the napkin on them, because I think that red's really going to kind of show through the white stripes, the white stars on the flag. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple coats of white on both sides just to give me kind of a clean canvas behind the decoupage. I don't know what I was thinking. I could have just left these parts like natural on the sides, but since the napkin doesn't go all the way, I did put down some painter's tape so I could at least have red corners on it. Since it's going outside and it's a wheelbarrow, I really want it to be pretty from every direction. So I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side. We're going to have a flag over here as well to make it look super patriotic. And covering up that red, I did have to do a couple of coats of white. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it is going to make the decoupage look better. So an important step. So we have all of those done. This is what we're going to use to make the wheel. You could also use this in the smaller, the little charms, the shore living line, if you can find it. This was a summer wind chime, and I'm going to just try to cut off the little knobs around the sides, and it's going to make a wood wheel that is going to be just the right size, I think, for this wheelbarrow. Since it is a wind chime, it has like some odd holes in it to hang it. So I do have to kind of fill those in with a little bit of spackle. So I'm going to have like a solid surface, but you can kind of see the tire pattern that's in the ship wheel, right? So I think that's going to be a really cool wheel. And for some reason they have writing on them. I don't know why. So I did have to go over that with a couple coats of white just to cover that up before we start painting this piece too. So the wheelbarrow itself is red and white. The handles, those long pieces of bamboo, are white. And then we're doing this one in navy. And you can always mix up your shades of blue. Sometimes I do. Going really traditional with these 4th of July DIYs, so I thought I would stick to that navy color. I think that looks really good. And just using a makeup sponge, we're going to paint both sides of it. Super easy to paint with this raw wood. It just soaks up that acrylic paint. Now that I have it painted, I'm going to start trimming it. So just regular heavy duty scissors. These are like my KitchenAid scissors that I use for crafting. They're super strong, cuts right through that thin Dollar Tree wood. And I can cut all those little handles off my ship wheel, and it's going to give me a round tire. Now I did do a little bit of sanding to try to make it a little bit rounder. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I think I got it pretty good. And that did expose a little bit of wood from cutting those off. So I'm just going to touch that up with a little bit more of the navy paint until the whole thing is blue. Now I'm trying to paint all of my pieces first before we start assembling them. I will have more pieces that we'll have to kind of add as I try to figure out how exactly I want to build this. This is kind of a plan I came up with myself, so it was a little trial and error for the build, but I was able to get it to work. Now this is the napkin with the flag design I love. And just using a piece of that tape, I'm using that to help me separate my 2 layers. And I'm just going to need 2 of those for 2 of the flag patterns. You could always use like scrapbook paper or try painting the flag on yourself too. But I already have these napkins, so I thought these would be perfect and an easy way to do the flag pattern. Just trying to make sure my sides are straight because you're going to be able to see those. The top and the bottom will be excess napkin, so that will get cut off. And we're just going to Mod Podge this on. I did not use my dishwasher safe Mod Podge on this one. I don't know why. I should have. I do end up sealing the whole project though, so maybe it doesn't matter. But I just did a thin coat here on the white side of my wheelbarrow and just lay that on there. I want like the blue and white stars to be up upper left hand side, and just smoothing that on with my new toy brayer. And then I go over it once it was dry with another thin coat of Mod Podge. And I think that looks really cute. It really gave a lot of personality and character to the wheelbarrow. And just carefully using my sanding sponge there to remove the excess napkin from the top and the bottom. And that side looks pretty good. Now, originally in my plan, I wanted the wheel to be functional and to turn. I was able to do that with my little red wagon. With this one, I wasn't able to pull it off. I think it's because that little ship wheel was so thin. And in my plan, I wanted it to work, but I ended up having to make it stationary, which is going to make it way more stable to be outside. So I don't know. I don't really need it to work. I was just trying to be extra. But I put some Mod Podge here on the other side and lay my other napkin right on top. And we're going to do the same steps. Just bray it on there. Give it a quick dry. Sand off the excess napkin, but not until I just go ahead and do a coat on top. I don't always do a coat on top if I'm doing a napkin, but definitely outside, I definitely wanted to seal that napkin on there with that beautiful flag pattern. So as you can see, lots of steps involved in this one. And I was like, this was the part where I was trying to make my wheel functional. So I did have a dowel. I painted it white because I wanted the dowel to go through the center of the wheel and make it turn. But I'm going to kind of cut that part out because it didn't work. Now, this is the handle part. It's also going to go all the way through and hook to the tire part of the wheelbarrow. So I needed 2 of them. They are a little bit longer than I need, so I'm just going to use my miter scissors just to cut off a little bit of the length. And I think that looks pretty good. I want them to go like that, kind of in a triangular pattern. And to make some extra braces and to make some legs for the wheelbarrow, I'm going to be using some of the little Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree, the little tiny ones. I'm going to paint 2 of them red, at least the visible parts. I'm going to leave one side just regular wood. And then these 2 are going to be the legs. I ended up needing 4 instead of 2. So if you are following step by step, be sure to paint 4 of these white. Because if you only do these small legs, it sits like level, and a wheelbarrow is supposed to be slanted. So I did have to make the legs longer by doubling up the Jenga blocks. But they required a couple coats of white. It seems like that acrylic paint really soaked in with them. And then the red pieces are actually for braces to hold the white handles and bars. It's going to form the structure of the wheelbarrow underneath. And this is kind of my plan. So let's go ahead and get started. It's really important to get this little white piece in the right place. I kind of lay it out how I want and do a bead of hot glue right where I want it. I'm going to be attaching the bamboo on its side just like this, which isn't super sturdy, which is why I have these little red braces that we made with the Jenga blocks. We're gluing that to the white bamboo piece and also to the wood box like that. And then we're going to do the same thing here on the other side. Now, it's really important to get this exactly right. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch it out with a pencil first so I know exactly where to put my hot glue on this one so I can keep everything kind of even. And I wanted a little space there at the end for my axle, for my tire, but I ended up having to actually just use Jenga blocks to kind of make the tire more stationary. But I did originally do it with the dowel, and it just wanted to tip over a little bit. So I want it to be sturdier. I did reinforce that with a little extra hot glue there onto those. And then these are going to be the little legs for the wagon. So I'm just going to kind of glue those inside that white structure like that, one on each side. And I use Gorilla Glue hot glue. It works pretty well on wood. I have it hold up pretty well. So hopefully this will too. So this is what we have so far with my wheelbarrow construction. You can kind of see some excess hot glue on the bottom, but that's okay. You're not going to be able to see that. I wanted to be as strong as I possibly could make it. Now that's when I realized I needed my legs to be longer. So I need 2 more of the Jenga blocks to make my legs longer. And then the third Jenga block I'm going to be using instead of like the axle between my tire to make it stationary. So it is what it is. I tried to make the wheel turn. If it would have been like a chunkier wheel, it probably would have worked. So I'm just going to cut one of the Jenga blocks into like little squares. I just want little flat cubes of that. And I just use my miter scissors. They actually work pretty well on these little Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree. And I get my miter scissors on Amazon too. I also have those linked in my Amazon shop. Once I cut down my little cubes, I'm then going to paint them white too. It's going to kind of blend in with the structure that is attached to the blue wheel. Kind of like that. So I'm just going to hot glue that onto the center of my tire. So I'll have a nice area to attach to both of the sides. Just like that. And as you can see, that's going to fit in there really nicely. It even kind of bows out a little bit, which is fine. It's just going to make it tighter. I'm going to hot glue one side at a time to try to make it a little bit stronger. So I glue it to that side. I let it sit for a bit, and then I go in and glue it to the other side. And hopefully that holds up. It definitely made it way more stable. It doesn't tip over like it was when I tried it with the axle. And then I needed to make these longer, so I'm just gluing the Jenga blocks end to end to make my legs longer. There is a little bit of a seam in them now, but that's okay because it made the wheelbarrow look way better because the back of it where the handles are should be taller. If you know what I mean, it needs to be kind of slanted down like that. Now, I did tell you I was going to put these outside. I'm going to put this on the table on my front porch. So I'm going to seal it with some Mod Podge gloss sealer. It's an acrylic sealer. And I'm just going to spray all over. Hopefully that's going to make it hold up a little bit better. And, you know, I use regular Mod Podge on it too. So the area I'm going to put it doesn't necessarily get wet unless it rains sideways, which it might. So we're going to fill it up with Dollar Tree flowers. I put 2 of the little foam blocks inside, and then I want to use some of the floral moss. I'm using the brown floral moss. That seems to be all I can find right now at Dollar Tree for some reason. And I definitely wanted to cover like the sides too where the star cutouts are so you can't see the green foam, and a little bit to cover the top as well. I picked up these flowers at the Dollar Tree. They are the Stars and Stripes flowers that they have every year for the 4th of July. And I'm just going to kind of alternate stars and stripes. And I think all 6 of them is going to fill this up nicely. Just pulling them off and using the little stem that's attached to push that down into the floral foam. So that's what it looks so far, but I wanted this project to scream 4th of July. So I'm going to use some of these little cupcake toppers. I love these. I think they look like exploding fireworks. These are also from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to do like 2 of those. One kind of like jetting out from the flowers on each side like little exploding fireworks. I think they look really festive and cute. And then I wanted something kind of taller for the middle of the planter. And so I was trying to see what I had from the Dollar Tree. I have like some dowels that actually have like stars on them. They're like glitter stars. They have red, white, and blue. This is the white one. The only problem is mine had a stain on it. You know, sometimes the Dollar Tree products do. And so I did like the white glitter, but I ended up having to paint the whole thing with white acrylic because of the stain. But that's okay. I'll leave the glittery side on the other side. It did give it like an interesting texture painting it. But I've got a lot of red and blue going on already. And so I thought a white star would look really cute as like a pick sticking out in the middle of the flowers just to make it even more festive. Now, it has like a rather big stick on it. I'm going to replace it with one of the skewers from the Dollar Tree just because it's skinnier and pointed. I thought that would be easier to stick down into the floral foam in the middle of that. And so I'm just going to remove this one and attach the new one. I did decide it was a little too long, so I trimmed it down a little bit more and just hot glued the skewer to the back of that foam star. And just put that right down here in the middle. So I've got fireworks, I've got flowers, I've got like a big white star in the middle. And I definitely think that this wheelbarrow screams 4th of July now. It was so fun to put together, a little trial and error with my design of the wheelbarrow, but I hope you guys love this one. And I have DIY'd another wheelbarrow recently for spring that I did a different design on that actually works. I got some little wood wheels kind of like that from Temu, and then I was able to use hardware to actually make it work, which was a really fun part of the design. But I love how patriotic this looks, and I think it's perfect for the 4th. I'm going to take 2 of the wood shelf signs from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted to try to make a coastal flag using supplies from the Dollar Tree with all kinds of fun textures and ideas here. So I love to save the little metal rings from these and the macrame cord, but I just want the 2 wood shelves. I'm going to put them together. It's going to give me a really nice rectangular sign to make a flag out of. I do want to give them a light stain here with some Beachcombers beige paint, just because I am going to be covering these with burlaps and stuff, but you might be able to see through them a little bit. I don't want the unfinished wood really to be visible. So I just went over and gave a quick stain to all of the wood with a very thin coat of paint. And then I went in with a baby wipe, kind of wiping off any excess paint so you can really see that wood grain come through. I was going for just an old weathered beach board look for these. Then I'm just going to take one of the signs, apply hot glue here to the edge, and glue the 2 together to give me a really nice size sign here that we can decorate. I wanted to use some of the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree to make flag stripes. And for the red part of the flag stripes, I'm going to use some of this red ribbon they have right now at the Dollar Tree in patriotic colors. It's like a red burlap. And I'm just going to use that to make some really easy flag stripes. I think I'm only going to have room for 3 because I want really a red stripe to be at the top and the bottom. So I cut 2 down the same length going end to end. I'll have this kind of cover up the seam in between the 2 boards. And just making sure I cut these pretty close to size. And then I'm going to do a shorter red stripe here for the very top. Now, if you had some of the red burlap from the Dollar Tree, you could cover the entire board sign with the red burlap and kind of put the nautical rope wherever you wanted. If you wanted to do maybe some skinnier stripes or more stripes on here, I'm going to do bold stripes like this. So I'm going to have 3 red stripes, 2 white. I just kind of mark off where I'm going to put the ribbon, and then I'm using some Dollar Tree tacky glue. It's going to be nice and strong to hold this ribbon on there. I just made sure to do a nice thick coat of it. It will dry clear, but this is going to be really strong, a little bit stronger than Mod Podge. And I just lay that on there, making sure I have all of it down and the glue is securing the ribbon completely. And the driftwood actually looks pretty good back there too for his stripe. But I do want to add layers to this. I wanted to have all kinds of fun textures and just be very coastal, but with the traditional red, white, and like navy colors of the American flag. So same thing here for the middle section. I kind of marked out my edges so I would know exactly where to put my glue. And just using a sponge to apply that, I'm going to add my second ribbon right about here. I don't really care that you can see some of the holes from the shelves through the ribbon or the seam. It's just going to add to, I think, the coastal charm of this. This last flag stripe I made shorter because I want to have room for the little blue and white stars part of the flag. And I just add some more tacky glue and add ribbon to this. Just making sure I clean up any excess glue that may have seeped out. Now for the blue part of the flag, the Union Jack, I think it's called, I'm going to use some of the blue burlap from the Dollar Tree. It's like a navy. And I'm going to cut out a little bit bigger size than I need for a little rectangle here. And I want it to look a little shaggy. So I like the fact that some of the burlap is pulled out here. I'm going to trim that up just to make sure that it is straight. It does kind of like to warp, but I like to go with like the exact grain of the burlap. It's going to make it easier, and you can kind of wiggle it around when you're attaching it. So I went ahead and kind of mapped out two sides, pulled out some strings here for how big I want this one to be. Just a quick, easy way to measure it and get the size that I want. And again, I do want it to be a little like raveled out like that on the sides, but you know what? I don't want it to be too crazy. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and use tacky glue for this part too, and just apply it here in this little section, making sure to kind of spread that out with a sponge. I think that it's going to dry a lot better if I, brush it around like that than leaving it just in streaks. And then I just place my burlap on here. I want to do starfish here. At this time, I hadn't decided if I was going to do like the larger one or some smaller ones. And I am going to pull off one more piece. I think that looks pretty good. If you have any that is overlapping the side a little too much, you can just flip it over, give it a quick trim. And then I want to use the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree for the stripes. Now, this is the wider cotton nautical rope. I think it's going to take about 4 strands to fill up that stripe. So I did big, bold stripes on this one. Again, another option I think would look really cute would be to cover the rest of the flag with a red burlap if you have it. And then you can kind of do flag stripes. You could even do like 2 instead of a wide stripe like I did with 4. So that's always an option. I kind of went back and forth which way I wanted to do it. But I don't really have any flag signs like this, so I wanted something a little bit different. And so I cut 4 of them down to size for my longer stripe. And then I'm going to do this same thing up here for my smaller flag stripe, just cutting 4 pieces all about the same length. I like the fact that the ends are going to be a little bit frayed. I was almost able to do this project with 1 package of rope, but as you can see, I was a little bit short. So I did have to open a second package here just for 1 more piece. Now to attach these, I find hot glue is the easiest way to attach rope. The reason I didn't want to use hot glue on the ribbon is because I didn't want that to be visible, like to come through the ribbon. Leave some hot glue staining on those. And same with the burlap at the top. So tacky glue worked great for those, but hot glue I think works great for the rope. And I'm just trying to keep the rope relatively straight here and to fill in that gap. I'm going to do the same thing up here for my top stripe. And then I do want this to be a hanging sign, so I'm going to take advantage of the holes that are in the flag sign that were in the wood shelves to make a really easy hanger, but you could always use this as like a leaner sign too, to lean up against the wall or in your cabinet. So I just poked a hole through the ribbon and the burlap, and I'm going to use that same cotton twine that came with it. I like to add a little hot glue to the ends of mine. It's going to make it way easier to go through the drilled hole here in the wood and the fabric. And I like to just knot mine here in the very front of my signs. I don't need all of this. It's a little bit longer than I need, so I just kind of cut it in half, add some hot glue, and feed this one in too, and tie this off. I think it's looking really cute. It definitely looks coastal with the burlap and the rope, but I think starfish is going to make it look really coastal. I tried it with one of the Dollar Tree starfish, but I thought I would like some smaller starfish better. These are the little tiny starfish that I get on Amazon. I do have these linked in my Amazon shop in the description of today's video. If you're in the market for these, they are great. As you can see, there's various sizes. I'm trying to use some of the larger ones, I guess. And I'm just staggering them on there. I'm going to do, I think I have room for about 4 rows. And as long as they were relatively the same size, I think it's going to work. They are real starfish though, so you have to be kind of careful when you're attaching these and handling them because you don't want them to break. Another option is like the white resin starfish that are a little bit smaller from Amazon. Those work great as well, and I did think about using those, but I did not have enough white ones. I think I'm going to have to reorder some of those, but I love these little tiny starfish. I always have a stash of these on hand, and I'm just using a dot of hot glue underneath each one to secure it on here, Again, trying to keep that same pattern. I realized I only had 3 on this row. That doesn't really make sense. There was 4 on all the other rows. So I added one more and continued to hot glue these on. And I love the look. It's kind of a ivory color, the starfish, and I think it goes really well with that nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. Another fun touch I thought would be to add some of this mesh ribbon from the Dollar Tree to kind of look like fishing net. I'm just going to simply cut a strip of this, tie it here on my hanger, and I'm just going to tie one simple bow. It does tie pretty easily, and it's just going to give me a fun mesh net look, which is going to add another fun coastal touch to this DIY, but it was really easy to add that. And I think it adds a little bit of character to the kind of plain hanger here at the top. And that's all there is to it. This is our coastal flag Dollar Tree DIY. I really love how this one turned out because of all of the textures. You have the burlap, you have the rope, and those great starfish. I'll try to post a link to those. And if you're enjoying today's video, please hit the like button. It helps my videos do better here on YouTube, and I would love it if you would subscribe to our channel if you haven't. And if you're on your phone, I would really appreciate it if you could hype today's video. Thank you so much. I wanted to see if I could make a Liberty Bell. Now, my husband and I used to live in Philadelphia, so we have definitely seen the Liberty Bell a couple of times, and I wanted to try to recreate it out of a terracotta pot from the Dollar Tree. These are the medium-sized ones, the ones that come in a 2-pack, and I want to see if I can try to make it look like a bell. Another item you could use is a plastic bell from the Christmas aisle at Dollar Tree if you have any in your stash. I probably do, but I definitely did not want to go through my Christmas stash. So I'm going to try it with a terracotta pot, and it is a very like metallic patina finish. I thought black would be a perfect undertone, so I just went over the entire outside of the terracotta pot with black, kind of working sideways there to give some lines around it, because that's kind of how the Liberty Bell looks, and I think that's going to be a perfect first coat. For the clapper thing inside the bell, I'm using a knob I found from the Dollar Tree. It is like a crystal ball, but it's a perfect size. So I'm going to remove the hardware on this, and I think I will like retain the little nut, putting that back on there. That'll help me be able to attach that to hang it inside my bell. And I'm going to paint it too because I want that to look like metal as well. And I really didn't expect this bell to work, but in the end it does. So I was really impressed with how this turned out. So black for both of those. I'm going to set those aside and we can start working on the base. Now, if you have a Dollar Tree that has these on sale right now, my Dollar Trees have the galvanized metal letters on sale for 25 cents. So they must be getting discontinued. So be sure to stock up. I'm going to spell out the word Liberty, and I'm going to add it to one of these little wood panel signs from the Dollar Tree, a little wood plank sign. I wanted to try to use the spray adhesive to attach these because they're always a little bit of a pain to try to hot glue on. So I just sprayed a layer of that glue on there, set those on there, let it dry, and then I went over it with another coat. And it actually worked, so win-win. Now for the Liberty Bell, it's held up with like 2 poles on each side. So I'm going to try to recreate that with some of these large dowels from the Dollar Tree. These are the ones that come in the 2-pack, nice and thick and sturdy. I'm just going to stain mine with some Antique Wax by Waverly, just giving one coat to both and wiping off any of the excess. Just with a paper towel, I just want a nice warm finish on these. And I'm going to be cutting these down, of course, because they are a little tall, but I find it a little bit easier to stain them before I cut them down. I wanted to use the wood sign as a base because it will be nice and strong. And then I could have a dowel coming up each side of the sign, and then maybe one going across to hold the weight of the bell, like that. Now, it does have a decorative yoke that I think might be the original yoke for the Liberty Bell. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to recreate that as well. So I'm just going to find the middle here of our dowel and cut this directly in half using my miter scissors. I love the miter scissors. I got these on Amazon. I do have them linked in my Amazon shop in the description of today's video. They work so great for cutting things like this from the Dollar Tree. I probably do need to replace the blade on mine. It's getting a little rusty in my Florida garage. I just attached mine with hot glue. If you wanted to put screws or nails in the other side and drive that up in there, it would be stronger. But I didn't really want to drill anything out or get any screws involved, so I just attached mine with hot glue and hope for the best. I also want one of the dowels to go straight across, and I want it to be long enough where it can sit on those. So it's going to be pushing down on those dowels to hold the weight of the bell. And the reason I had to do this piece is because I'm going to be using foam for the decorative yoke part of it, and that's not really going to be a functional piece, so I did need something strong like the wood that could hold the weight of the bell. So that's what it looks like. Again, you could reinforce those parts with hardware as well. Really didn't expect my bell to be so functional, so hopefully nobody breaks it playing with it. Probably me. Now, to make that old looking yoke that's on the top of the Liberty Bell, I'm going to try to carve it out of some floral foam from the Dollar Tree. So I just got the long rectangular piece, and I am just using my pool noodle knife here to try to cut this down. I want a piece that is skinnier than the dowels that will fit inside, and then I want it to have like this arched shape here at the top, like I saw in the pictures. I'm going to actually just sketch that out with a Cricut weeder, and my foam is just worked away. This soft foam from the Dollar Tree is so easy to mold like that, and I think that is exactly what I'm looking for. I do want it to be cleaned up and a little bit thinner, and I just kind of mold it until I am happy with the size. I'm going to seal this and paint this and try to make it look like really old dark wood, like I saw in the pictures. But for texture, it needs a little bit of wood texture, so I gave that with the Cricut weeder. I just carved a wood grain into it, and I love how that effect turned out because it really reminds me of how the wood looks on the Liberty Bell. Then I seal it with some Mod Podge so I can paint it easier. Otherwise, I have a hard time getting paint to stick to, especially to the soft foam like this from the Dollar Tree. So once that's dried, I went over it with some brown acrylic paint. Not quite as dark as I want it to be, but I wanted to use a couple different browns together to really make this look old and cool. And so I just paint everywhere, the top, bottom, inside, outside, because it's going to be a standalone piece like this. Really, you want it to be pretty from all sides. And then once that's dry, I went over it with some Antique Wax by Waverly to give me that really deep brown tone that I was looking for. But the carving the wood grain on there just worked perfect. And of course, this is going to be just decorative for my Liberty Bell. All of the weight's really going to go on that wood dowel. Now, our black paint is dry on our flower pot, so I went over it with some metallic gray. I thought to give it like a metallic look, which I liked, but that's not really how the Liberty Bell looks. It's more of a bronze, but this did give me a good base for the metallic color, but I end up covering most of this up. But the black on the bottom is definitely a good idea, and I went over the little clapper of our bell as well. Then I went in with some gold metallic since that really wasn't working for me. I got the gold metallic paint at Dollar Tree actually, and that's a little too gold. So then I mixed the gold metallic together with the black, and it gave me a lot closer to that brass color that I was looking for the Liberty Bell. So I just kind of played with it until I got the perfect shade, and I'm going to paint all over the flower pot to make it look like a bell. I was really impressed with how well the flower pot worked for this project. I wasn't sure since it's not a perfect bell shape, but it really works. I'm going to go over the clapper with that same gold black metallic mixture there and get everything good and painted. The more gold added to it, you're going to get a little bit more of a bronze finish like that. And again, I am using bristled brush and kind of going side to side to get all those great lines and textures just to make it look like a really old bell was what I was going for. Now, this is the structure here. The yoke is going to be right here on the top. I just really need to attach it. Again, this part's just decorative for me. I just put hot glue on the top of the foam and glue it to the bottom of that top dowel. And I'm really glad I added that piece. I think it adds a fun detail, makes it look a little bit more authentic. Now to start putting the bell together, I'm going to need a little bit of twine. I'm using the twine from Walmart. It's a little bit thicker than the twine from Dollar Tree. And I cut a nice long piece of that. And look at that beautiful finish I've got going on. But I can't forget the crack here on the Liberty Bell, right? So I'm using just a black Posca paint pen. And I think it goes a little something like this over to the side. I did make the crack a little bit more obvious by going over it with a second coat, but trying to make it look like a crack as well, which is a really fun detail. Then I'm going to feed the twine here through the hole in the flower pot, which worked out perfectly. Making sure to leave enough to work with here. I am going to need to attach that to the clapper. So I just tied that off to the cabinet nod right there at the bottom, hot gluing that on and wrapping that around the screw of that, using that little bolt to come on there to help, keep the twine in place, hot gluing everything together. And that's all going to be hidden inside the bell, so you won't be able to see that part. And then I need to kind of adjust it where it will hang properly. I'm going to need to knot it so it won't go all the way through. So I needed to knot it quite a few times because right now it's hanging out way too far. I want it to be a functional bell, but a little bit obvious, but not that much. So I tied mine, I think a total of 4 times to get the perfect length. And I was really surprised to see that it actually works like a bell. So that's really cool. Now I have all this excess twine on here. I'm going to use that to tie that to the wood dowel here on the top for structure. But I'm also going to tie that around a couple of times because that is how the Liberty Bell looks. So I'm going to use that extra twine for that. So I just knot off the first one and then start wrapping it around just in a pattern that works. I'm going to use most of this twine. And again, I do want it to hang and dangle above the base there. And I think that is perfect. I just hot glue down the end, trying to make sure that everything is centered and burn off any fuzzies from my rope with a lighter. And this is what our Liberty Bell looks like so far, but I thought it needed some red, white, and blue. So the edge of the sign is unfinished here for the base, so I'm going to give it a pop of patriotism with this great ribbon I found from the Dollar Tree. It's red, white, and blue, like flag pattern, and I just glue that all the way around our Liberty Bell, even on the back since it is kind of a 3-dimensional piece. And that really added a little pop of color to it that I really think that it needed. And I think this ribbon is perfect for like a Philadelphia theme here for our 4th of July. And that looks pretty good. The only other thing I wanted to do was lightly distress it. So I used a little antique wax by Waverly and I distressed that white sign. I probably could have done that at the beginning. It might have been a little bit easier, but I just wanted it to look old and rustic, something that would be a good base for the Liberty Bell and not quite so white and perfect down there. And so I just went over it with a slight distress and then maybe a little stippling here and there to give it a light distress. And I also gave a very light distress with ivory on the stained wood just to weather that a little bit, make that look a little bit older as well. And I think that's all this project needs. I'm really happy with how it turned out. My very own little Liberty Bell, perfect for a patriotic theme, very creative. I haven't seen anybody else make one of these, but I love it for the 4th of July, very patriotic with the Liberty Bell. If you want to reinforce the structure of this with a couple of nails or some wood glue, it might make it even stronger. I just used the Gorilla Glue hot glue on this one, but I love the idea of turning a little flower pot like that into a Liberty Bell. Really fun to put this 4th of July decor together.
I found a really gnarly piece of driftwood at the beach. It can be anything. If you're not next to a beach, you could always use a stick or a log, something that you find on a walk or in your yard or something like that. This one's a little crazy. I'm just trimming it up just a tiny bit, but I kind of like it all wild and crazy. We're going to transform it into a sailboat. So this is just a little wood piece that I had from Dollar Tree out of one of the little crafting kits. It can be any flat surface, any little flat piece of wood. I just needed something to act as a base for my driftwood. And so that's what I'm going to do is just hot glue that onto that wood that I painted a beachy blue color. I want to do like a 4th of July sailboat with this using fabrics from the Dollar Tree. So I just need it to stand up, and just any kind of piece of wood, any kind of craft wood, maybe even a Dollar Tree ruler might work for that. Then right in the middle, I just break out my power drill, and I'm just going to drill a hole here in the middle so that we can make a sail. Now for the sail, I'm using one of these, which is like the little hot dog sticks from the Dollar Tree, but you can use any kind of dowel you have, but I think this one's going to work perfectly. I'm just cutting it down to size there with my miter scissors and putting a little hot glue in the hole to glue it in place. And that's how it looks so far. So I want to use some shore living fabric with starfish on it. And then I picked up some of these 4th of July bandanas from the Dollar Tree so we could get some stripes. I couldn't find any like flag stripe fabric at the Dollar Tree, so a bandana will work perfectly for this. But I only really want the stripes, so I'm going to cut off the stars and then kind of measure how big I need it to be, because I also measured my sail and can just kind of cut a tab there so I know exactly where to cut, right? I decided it was a little too wide, so I'm going to take one row off of the stripes, try to cut a straight line there. Now, just using my ruler, I am going to try to cut a straight line here all the way across. I decided I better use my ink pen so I'll know exactly where to cut. And I just cut inside that line that I made with my ink pen. And we have a very easy little 4th of July sail. I left the seam on the bottom because why not? That kind of adds to it. Then for the other side of the sail, we need stars, right? So I thought this starfish fabric from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree would be perfect. If you want a more traditional flag-looking sailboat, they do have the blue and white stars fabric at the Dollar Tree, sometimes if you're lucky. But I wanted to do coastal, so I think this is going to look really cute together. What do you guys think? So it's just a matter of cutting another sail. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that right there at the seam. And then using my ruler just to get some straight lines, we can cut a sail here for the other side. Now, usually like a sailboat has like a bigger side, and that's what this is going to be. So I measured out exactly how big I wanted it by looking at my driftwood, and then just again use my ruler to draw a line on there, and we're going to simply cut this out. I don't think we're going to have any problems with fraying or anything like that, but I did give them a quick iron because they were a little bit wrinkly. Sometimes that fabric, when it's folded up like that for a while at the Dollar Tree, can stay that way. Now, for the flag, I didn't have like any hooks to do like any a lot of times they put the little hooks into the wood and you string it in there. So I'm just going to string directly to the fabric. I just used a big needle to poke some holes in the corners. And then I'm just using some Dollar Tree twine. This one's really cute. It's like the brown and white twine. And it's just a matter of getting it through there. I found that my Cricut weeder might do a better job of making a little bit larger hole, but then I just knot the twine on the other side to keep it in place. Now we're going to do the same thing here on the other side with our little flag stripes. And feed that through and tie it off. And then we can attach the little ropes to the sail that we made and to the boat. Had a little bit of trouble on that one, but I think this is going to work really well, and it's a quick fix. Now, recently at Dollar Tree, I was able to find some of the little hooks that you could use for this, but it's not something that I often see at Dollar Tree. I had a little bit more trouble with the material in the bandana, so when I couldn't quite get it, I just tied the corner. I think it's going to be fine. So now it's just a matter of laying out our sails just like we want, and again, we can just tie it on our little dowel we have right here in the middle to put the sail exactly where we want it, bottom and top, and then we'll just need to attach the other one down to the piece of driftwood. So same thing, these are going to be pretty even with each other, just knotting that around, and then I can even knot the two together, cutting off the excess, and then we're going to do the same thing here at the top. Who knew that making a sailboat was so expensive, right? I have spent big money on sailboats for decorations. Isn't that cute? And it's patriotic, but it's also so coastal and beautiful that it doesn't scream 4th of July. It just hints at it a little bit, right? With the red and white sail. And I just glued mine twine right inside my driftwood. I had an opening there. And then on this side, I don't. So I'm just going to kind of glue it to a hole in the back, just wherever I could find an inconspicuous area back there. It's so cute so far. I do use a little hot glue there at the top to make sure that that stays in place. Also at the bottom, I don't want them slouching down. And then I just wanted to make a flag for the top, and I thought I would use a little bit more Shore Living fabric just for that beachy blue color that I've used on the base, and that's also on the starfish. So I just need the tiniest little bit of fabric here to do like a two-sided flag. So what I want to do is just wrap it around and kind of make it look like it's shaped like a little pennant. I probably should have cut it all out in one piece, but I just cut 2 pieces down, the same size, just 2 little triangles, just to make it a little bit stiffer so that it will stand up like a flag. And then I just hot glue them together. And I did leave a tab on the back of my triangle there so that I could wrap it around. But I also don't want that to be visible, so I trimmed off the corners. Then I used a little bit of hot glue, and I'm just going to secure that to my skewer for a little flag right there on top. Now, it is going to need a little hot glue to keep this in place, but I think this turned out really cute. What do you guys think about this coastal patriotic sailboat?
I love the way it turned out. You could really play around with the fabrics. You could even use like the star pattern of like the chair cover or the bandana for the star part instead of the starfish. But I had that one on hand, and I love how it turned out. And just using a fun piece of driftwood for the bottom of the sailboat just works. For the next DIY, we're going to use these large wood dowels from the Dollar Tree. These are the ones that come 2 to a package, so they're really big. And we're going to make a rustic star out of these, a rustic star leaner. So we're going to need a total of 5. And I'm going to go ahead and stain all these to bring out that great wood grain with some antique wax by Waverly before we start putting this together. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make a star out of these because these dowels are so thick, but I was able to make it work, so I was really happy with this. I've always wanted to make a star project like this, but I've never really thought that I could pull it off. But I just kind of went for it and thought, we'll figure this out. So again, I'm using a sponge stencil dauber, and I'm using some antique wax by Waverly, and we're going to stain all of the sides of all of these. I thought the dowel would be an interesting way to do it. I know people sometimes do them with like paint stir sticks kind of thing, some of the flatter wood, but I wanted more of a skinnier star and something that I can use like twine to tie the ends of them. And the only like difficulty I had was the final piece, but I was able to make it work, to make it all come together. I'm going to use mine as a leaner, but you could probably hang this on your wall as well. Now that I have them all stained and dried, I'm going to start putting this together. Now, I looked it up, and the tips of a star are 36 degrees, but I don't have a protractor on my craft station. I don't think I'd ever need one of those again. I'm going to try to estimate a little bit here with one of my squares from Dollar Tree. That's a 90-degree angle. So if I can try to get my angle to be like a third of that, I'm thinking I can make this work. I used a dot of hot glue to lay one of my dowels on top of the other. And then I'm going to take some of the twine from the Dollar Tree and tie a knot to tie that off. I'm going to use that same piece of twine to tie around it. So I added a little bit of hot glue, gluing that twine into place and wrapping that tight. I think that the twine is going to keep the star together more than the hot glue did, because I'm going to need it to be slightly flexible to make this work to form the shape of the star. At the end, I found it a little bit easier just to glue the end of your twine rather than tying it off. For the next piece, I'm going to go on top. So I went straight across, I went down, and now this piece is going to go up. Again, I'm going on top. I add some hot glue, adding my wood to the top. And again, I estimated my angle the best that I could there. Tying off some twine and wrapping this side as well. If you follow the steps that I'm doing, you should be able to make this work, because again, the width of the diameter of the wood dowels did make it a little bit tricky trying to make everything touch and fit together, which is what I was trying to do here. So for this one, again, I stack on top, all of them so far. I've put my new piece on top. This one's going to go back down. So I hot glued that, tied that off. I found that if I wrapped it really tight and then hot glued the end of it, but adding a little bit of hot glue as I go really helped make this a little bit sturdier. And then gluing off the end, just trimming that off. And this was the tricky part, the last piece. Again, I'm going on top here for this piece, and I'm going to be going on top for the last piece. But making it touch is a little bit difficult there on the last one. But since we're going to tie it off, we'll have a little bit of flexibility. But first, we're going to glue and tie down this end. And you can use some colored string as well for the ends if you didn't want to use the jute twine. Like something blue or red would be really cute too for 4th of July. So for this one, I had to kind of angle it up a little bit to make that go back like that. And I hot glued it and tied it pretty much the same as all the others. Now, it did make it a little bit more 3D, and it's a little bit flexible at this point. A lot of my cross pieces don't touch either, which is to be expected to make this out of the different shapes like that. As you can see at this point, it's still pretty flexible, but I was able to glue at least 2 sets of them together to kind of make things stay exactly where I want. There and there. Those dowels touch. And I was able to hot glue those together, and it just made it a lot more stable. The next thing I'm going to do is just burn off any fuzzies from the jute twine with a lighter just to clean that up. And I'm not going to add anything else to this. It's going to be a leaner like that. And I think it turned out really cute. I'm so glad I decided to try this. It's a nice large star that's going to look great combined with some of my other 4th of July DIYs. Look how cute this turned out. At first, it took me a little bit to figure out how to build it, but I'm so glad that I did. I think it's really cute. Just a very simple design. This would go with any kind of patriotic decor, especially like an Americana decor, something a little bit old-fashioned with the tied off wood dowels. But I love it.
Okay, next DIY, I wanted to do some fun like sand art. So I picked up one of these little candle holders from the Dollar Tree. And at first I thought I was going to use this patch. And I do originally, this is, from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. It is just like a sew-on patch, I guess, of the American flag. And so I start off by hot gluing that to the front because I wanted a little flag on the front of this. As you can see, it's really big though. And once I get this project done, I was like, that's way too big. So I do switch it up to a smaller flag, and I'll show you that too. But what I wanted to do was do a little patriotic candle for the 4th of July, but doing like sand art. Now, if you remember, if you're as old as me, we used to do sand art a lot like at fairs and stuff like that. I remember choosing different colors of sand and making patterns by filling like glass bottles, and we would always save those. It was always really fun. So I thought I would try that for some flag stripes. Dollar Tree has like red and white sand. And so I just poured in some red sand, try to level that off and give me like a flag stripe. And then I'm going to use one of these little Dollar Tree votive candles and just lay it right on top. You can burn candles in sand, so I thought this would be safe to do. Now I'm going to use craft funnels for the rest of it. I got these at Dollar Tree actually, and they work great. If you don't have these, I think any kind of funnel is going to help because it's just going to help you get the sand exactly where you need it to be. And then a dry paintbrush is great too to kind of like flatten that out because that is going to be our first white stripe on our flag. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see from this angle and I can't really show you because it'll mess up all the sand, but I'll show you it here in just a second. So I did another red stripe trying to keep it, you know, as straight and even as I can with the sand art. And then I'm going to go in here and do a white stripe. Now this pretty much fills it all the way up to the sides of the candle. And so I think this is going to be our last stripe, but using the little craft funnels from the Dollar Tree made it super easy. I really love those things. I've been finding all kinds of uses for them. So I got it all done and then I was like looking at it and I'm like, you can't see like the sand art or the flag stripes because of that American flag patch that I put on the front that I thought was too big. So I do go in and switch that out here in just a second. But I was just trying to level out my like white sand at the top without messing up my sand pattern. So I'm just going to peel off that patch. We'll have to use that on something else. I love those though. I have DIY'd with that in the past. And then I wanted a smaller flag and I have some of those little cupcake picks from the Dollar Tree of the little American flag. And I thought that would be way better because then you could still see the red and white stripe pattern, but you're still going to have a cute little flag on the front. I'm just going to cut the toothpick off of it just to get that out of the way. And trim it up a little bit so you can't see any of like the white edges or backing. And then just attach that with hot glue to the front. Easy peasy. Gotta work quickly when you're hot gluing to the glass like that though, because it will dry really fast. But I love how this turned out. Let me show you since you can't really see from this angle.
I love the idea of using sand. If you have any of the red sand in your stash, I've noticed my Dollar Tree is only having white sand right now, which is really annoying me because I really like the colors, especially tan for DIYs. But this was a fun take on a patriotic candle, and I love using sand on a candle DIY. Okay, check out these little firecrackers from the Dollar Tree. I think this is so cute. I've never seen these before today when I was at Dollar Tree, and I had to grab them. So they are connected with like little plastic pieces. I, of course, want to remake these. They are covered in that tinsel stuff. It'd be great for a party, but it's not really something I want in my day-to-day 4th of July decor for sure. So I thought we would make it more high-end by replacing all of this tinsel. So it's just a matter of getting it off. It's lots of different colors, red, white, and blue, and it was actually pretty easy. It has like kind of an interesting cage where they hook together the two taller ones, and then the smaller one in the front kind of hooks into both of them. I do like the little sparkler on the top for like a lit firework. So I'm going to leave that on there, but I really just wanted the plastic cages because I'm always trying to find ideas to make like fireworks. And it's hard to find round items like that from the Dollar Tree. So this is perfect. I want to try to wrap them with some of this like wicker material that the hats and the placemats from Dollar Tree are made out of. So I picked up a red and blue placemat and one of the new hats in the blue and white pattern. I think that's really cool. Now, it's a little tricky to get these started, especially this first row, but I don't think I'm going to need a lot of this. I'm going to do one blue, one red, and one blue and white. So I just kind of cut it where it starts, and this one ripped pretty easily. once you start cutting the plastic thread. And I just went around one time until it kind of comes to the seam for the outside of it, which is the tricky part. But you know what? I think that's all I'm going to need so I can save the rest of that placemat for other DIYs. I'm going to start by attaching it to the bottom like this and wrapping it around. It's okay if that like little lip shows. I don't mind that. That's going to help it stand up better. But I just hot glue that in place, and I'm just going to slightly overlap that and wrap it with this beautiful blue material. I think it kind of looks like a seagrass look. I love using this for DIYs. And I just going to wrap it all the way around on this one until I get to the very top. There's like little, notches sticking out. I'm going to try to cover those up, cut it down, and hot glue it. But I'm also going to have to cover the top of the firecracker. So I cut off another piece, and I'm just going to cut like a half of a circle so I can piece it together around the wick like that. And then I can always trim it down to size. So I'm going to hot glue those in place. It was kind of a double layer, so I really only had to cut one of those. And I had 2 layers that I could glue to the top. And then I'm just trimming down any of the excess that might stick out at the sides to make it look nice and round. And we have our first firework, like firecracker. I'm going to go ahead and attach them all together, kind of like they came. But for now, that one looks really good, and we can get started on the next one. Now, the next one I'm going to do with the red placemat, and I wasn't as lucky with this one. I'm going to go ahead and leave that tab on there, which is kind of hard to work around. I'll show you how I did it. This one, I don't know if it's because I started with at a different place, but I had trouble unwinding it. I find that the hats are my favorite for unwinding with ease, but the blue one went really easy too. So maybe I just started it kind of in a bad space because it didn't really want to tear, as you can see there. But we're going to make it work. I could kind of get it to tear this way to a point, and then it didn't really want to go anymore. So, you can always cut it if you're having trouble separating it. It's kind of like a plastic, like kind of like fishing line material that keeps these things together. I just went ahead and cut it just to finish it off because I knew I didn't need very much. I just need like the outer portion of it, which is a little tricky to get off of there anyway. So I just cut that down, and then we can wrap our red firecracker with it. I gave up and cut it. I don't know why I was having trouble with that one. And just like before, I'm going to start at the bottom, hot gluing this, and we'll just have to work around that tab because I want to leave it on there. I think it's important to it when I go to attach them together, right? So once I get here to this point, I just cut a little slit right where the plastic piece is, but not all the way through, so that I can wrap it around, no problem like that. And when I get to the second tab, I do the same thing. I just cut a little slit and keep wrapping it all the way to the top. I think this material looks so much better than the tinsel that was on there before. The colors are really patriotic, so I think it's perfect. So I got all of that covered. All I have to do is cut the little half circle here for the top and separate the 2 pieces and hot glue those on. Just make sure your hot glue is dry on those before you let go of them. I kind of use the plastic pieces as a guide of how to put these on there and gluing those together. Definitely not messing with the top of the firework because I like that. I think that looks really cute. So we have our red, we have our blue, and now the smallest firecracker we're going to do with the hat. They have these in blue and white and like hot pink and white, and they have the little purses in this like 2-tone now too, which is new with the Dollar Tree. I really like it. I picked up some of the pink and white ones, I thought for pink flamingos DIY, so stay tuned for that. But the blue and white one I thought would be perfect for 4th of July. So you saw how easy it was to unwind the hat. It just comes right apart and gives you lots of material to work with. I wasn't sure how much I was going to need since this was a smaller firework. And so I'm kind of leaving it attached to see how much I need. I want to save it. And these have small tabs on them. And I just kind of was able to actually get that to go through the material because it's kind of like a waffly shape. You can kind of move it around and slide things through it if you need to, which is exactly what we did with this one, so the tabs still stick out. I have two sets of tabs that stick out on that, and then just cutting the little piece to cover the top of it. This one's not too layered like the placemat was, so I did have to cut two of those down to size and just hot glue those to the top. I thought the blue and white would look really cute for the front firecracker as I put them all together for a decor piece. Now I've kind of made a larger version of this with a Dollar Tree like candle. So you'll have to check that out in one of my previous DIY videos from I think last week. I just hot glue the two tabs together here for the back. And I kind of covered up some of this, so I only had slots for one set of those tabs coming out of the smaller firework. So I thought I'll just cut the other two off. I don't think I really need them, and I don't want to worry about cutting holes in that red firework. So I just hot glue the one set of tab in as I glue them all together like that into a set of firecrackers. And then to make sure they stay together, and I think it looks cute too, I decided to wrap them in twine. And I want to wrap it around several times because this twine is kind of thin to kind of make it look like a bundle of fireworks. And I'm simply going to tie it off here in the front. It's going to help keep it together. It adds a little bit of decor to the piece. And just kind of arrange that to make it look nice and cut off the ends. And we have a set of DIY firecrackers that are so cute. I'm so glad that Dollar Tree has gotten these in. I've never seen them before with their 4th of July decor. I think they look totally different with the material covering them instead of the tinsel. It was really fun to put these together. I tried to make each one of them a unique color with a pattern one there in front. Kind of a smaller piece. I think this would work really well like on a 4th of July tier tray or for some decor in your cabinet.
Okay, next DIY, I just needed a bucket, and this one I found at the Target dollar spot. I thought it would be perfect because it's a beautiful beachy blue color, but you could take a Dollar Tree bucket and do the same thing. What I liked about it is that it had that rope handle on it. I thought that looked really coastal, and the color was really coastal. Now, I'm just trying to fill up most of the bucket so I don't have to use so much stuff. So I just used like a tin bucket and some trash bags because I had no recycling that day. Something that I can reuse, just a spacer in there. And then I wanted a little patriotic touch on the front. I found this little American flag patch at the Dollar Tree. And I thought that'd be really cute and simple right on the front of our beach pail. And so I'm just attaching that with hot glue. And now it's just in the regular crafter square section. If you're not able to find it, you could probably use any kind of flag decor from the Dollar Tree that's small like that. Maybe even like a window decal. Then since it's a beach pail, we are going to fill it up with beach finds. First, I'm using just like white bleached seashells I have from the beach. You can use whatever you've got. I just wanted a little bit of a shell feel. And then, of course, starfish because it's the 4th of July. And these are the white starfish from Dollar Tree. And I think that looks really cute because you can see the seashells like peeking through a little bit. But mostly you're going to see the stars, which I think goes with the patriotic feel. But I'm not going to stop there. This is a plunger handle from the Dollar Tree. And I thought we could make some fun coastal little like bottle rockets with these. Some fireworks. So I'm just staining this with some antique wax by Waverly, but I don't want it too dark. So I'm wiping off the excess with a baby wipe to give me a lighter stain. And I got a really good deal on this. Like the plunger part was missing, so they had it marked down to like 50 cents at my Dollar Tree. But I'm also going to stain some of the little food skewers from the Dollar Tree. I thought we would make like 3 like bottle rockets. So they're going to have like this skinny stick like a bottle rocket has, and then like the thicker firework part at the end that makes it do its magic. Now, they do stain a little bit differently than the handle to the plunger, but just trying to get it as close as I can get it. maybe not wipe off as much. Because I kind of want that medium wood color. It's going to go nicely with that brown rope that's on our little beach bucket. Then I use my saw to cut down 3 pieces out of the plunger handle, all about the same size that we can make look like little rockets. And I was going to cover these with paper, but I'm glad that I stained the wood instead. I think it really adds some charm to these. And that's what I'm talking about, just gluing it on the skewer like that to make it look like a bottle rocket. Some little DIY faux fireworks. And I'm going to do that here on all 3, and then we can decorate them a little bit more. I thought we could have these bottle rockets like sticking out of our beach bucket, just to give it a little bit more 4th of July fun. So I think that looks pretty good. I think they're all secure. Then I wanted to decorate them a little bit because otherwise they look kind of boring, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little Dollar Tree brown jute twine to make little wicks for the bottom of the bottle rockets that can kind of stick out. Kind of like dynamite wicks, if you will. And we're just going to attach those to the bottom of our little bottle rockets with just a dot of hot glue. Like it's coming out the bottom, a little wick that we can light it with. And just going to stand those up upside down, standing the twine like straight up in the air. So super easy. Then I'm going to take a little Dollar Tree burlap ribbon, and I just kind of cut it in half and cut the wire off the end just because I want to do like a little burlap rocket top. So I just kind of like make it into a little cone shape and hot glue it together and just cut off a very rustic, simple little burlap cone to go on the top of our fireworks. I thought that would make it look a little bit like a rocket on there. And just another little fun beachy touch to go with all of the wood and everything too. And so I'm going to do that same exact thing for the other 2 bottle rockets. Just kind of cutting it in half, cutting the wire off, forming a cone shape, and just hot gluing it to itself. Super easy. And then you just have to cut the bottom to make that bottom like a nice flat line to go all the way around to the side of the rocket. Now, I did decide that I wanted them to be different lengths sticking out, so I did cut one down a little bit. This one I thought would make it look like flag stripes, so I'm just using a red paint pen and just drawing some flag stripes on there, leaving that stained, but just adding a little bit of striped fun there all the way around. They don't have to be perfect, just kind of close. And this one, I took a white paint pen and I thought we would put some little stars on here. So I'm just drawing some simple like freehand stars all over with more of a like fine tip. But you could also just draw stars on there and fill them in. It would be super cute too. I just wanted a few more patriotic touches on the fireworks. And then I thought they were a little too, you couldn't really tell, you know, so I do go back in here with a white paint pen and kind of fill them in to make them a little bit more substantial. And I thought we could have like one of these like sticking out each direction of the bucket and one like sticking straight up. And I'm just going to do the simple red flag stripes on this one too. And then it's just a matter of putting them in there. I do use a little hot glue on the tip just to kind of make it stay where I want it to. Just because I kind of had weird filler going on in there underneath my seashells and starfish. And then kind of like work the other 2 kind of around the sides here. Super whimsical, super beachy. I think this is so fun. What do you guys think about my little beach bucket full of bottle rockets?
Now, the starfish, I have quite a stash of these from the shore living line at Dollar Tree, which unfortunately they've discontinued, but you can find some really good ones on Amazon and Temu, and just look for a beach bucket just about anywhere. If you can't find a nice color like this, you could always paint it this beautiful color. For this DIY, I want to take 4 of the little mini pallets from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to make a fun hanging planter for the 4th of July. I want one of these to be on each side, and I want the larger pallets to be here on the outside. So it's a little bit more simple. And I'm going to attach it like that. So and one side will be a little bit longer. It'll be a little bit rectangular in shape. I just glue that on there, kind of matching it up end to end there to form a 90-degree angle there, where I want the width of it to be a little bit wider. So I'm going to have one of those glued on each side, if that makes sense, like that. And I am just using hot glue to attach these together. I'm going to be using faux florals from the Dollar Tree and foam, so it doesn't have to be super sturdy. If you wanted to reinforce yours with some wood glue or some nails, you really could. And then for this piece, I need to kind of sandwich it in here. I put hot glue on each side and kind of open it up and put that right inside, forming the structure of our little hanging planter. Now, I want to do something else for the bottom of it because I couldn't get another one of those to fit perfectly on there because I made the rectangular shape. But first, I'm going to stain it. I wanted to go ahead and glue it first because when I stain it with the paint, it was going to make the hot glue a little bit harder to stick to it. And I just find that wood items glue better that way. So once I get it all put together, I just made a paint stain out of some red acrylic paint mixed with water. It's going to be really thin, which is going to make it easier to paint the inside of the palettes here too, where it would be a little bit harder to paint. And I'm going to go over all 4 sides, inside and outside of the palette board signs. I really want everything to look like it's stained red. So it's not going to be a real bright red. It's going to be more of a stained red wood, which I really like that effect. And I'm also going to be adding some of the wood stars from the Dollar Tree to give it a fun patriotic touch. But first, I had lots of areas to go in here with my brush to make sure that I got every single part of this covered. And you could do it navy or blue as well if you'd like. For the bottom of it, I'm just going to use one of the flexible cutting mats from the Dollar Tree. And I actually had one in red. Sometimes they come in colors. So I thought might as well match the box, but you could always do one of their frosted ones as well. These work great for little planter bottoms because you can't really see them, and it provides a great bottom that's really easy to cut down to size. So I just cut out a little rectangular piece that will fit, and I'm just going to use hot glue to glue that little cutting mat there on the bottom. I kind of focused on the insides of the palette boards there. As you can see, it's a little bit thick. Then I can go in and kind of trim it up and glue down the corners to make sure that it's going to be really secure. And we're going to be using that heather from the Dollar Tree in red, white, and blue to add to this. But first, some stars. I wanted to do some white stars. I thought that would look really pretty against the stained red wood. So I'm going to use these little wall hangings they have this year at the Dollar Tree and just simply remove them from the little wall hanging and remove the staples here from the back. The Cricut weeder works great for that, those tiny staples. And I can glue one of these on each side. The front and the back are kind of the wider sides, so that is what I'm going to decorate. And it's going to be a hanging sign, so I want it to be pretty on both sides. I just simply used hot glue to attach my wood star to that side. As you can see, it's the perfect size for these little mini palettes from the Dollar Tree. And I attach one there to the other side as well. Now, I do want this to be a hanging planter, so I do need to take some twine. You could also use chain for this if you'd like, but I find twine a little bit easier to work with. I can just feed it through the palette here on the sign and double tie this and use that same piece to go to the other side, creating like half of the hanger. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the opposite corner, just double tying that. And then I will do the opposite corners and we can tie it all together at the top. And I thought it would be easier to do this before I start filling it up with florals because I don't really have anything to get in my way. One of my was a little bit longer than the other, so I did tie it together here at the top to make sure that it's going to hang balanced, and I think that's going to work. I just burned off any fuzzies there on my twine with a lighter, and now we can fill this up with florals. But I think it looks really cute. I've been wanting to make a little hanging planter like this for a while, and I'm glad I finally got an excuse to make one. I just cut down some of the Dollar Tree floral foam, and we are just going to use the heather. This time I'm going to leave the greenery on this. I think that's really pretty. And I'm going to use all red, white, and blue and just start scattering this around. I notice there's less blue than there are red and white on these. And so I'll only have a couple of the blue, but I think that that's going to be fine. I do like the greenery in that, and I'm just going to keep filling it, scattering those in there until I think it's full enough. And then I use a little bit of the floral moss from the Dollar Tree to cover up any foam that might be visible. Really cute. You could use this indoors, outdoors. If you had it like maybe on a porch or something like that, I think that would look really cute hanging there. I think that's where I'm going to put mine. I had the vision of making like a little planter box with these. I knew it would work if I could find some way to make a bottom on these. And I really love the like red and white and blue heather. I think that is so beautiful. And it's not like, some of the Dollar Tree patriotic florals can be a little tacky. I think those look a little bit more high end. What do you guys think?
Okay, the next DIY, I wanted to do something fun with these corals they have this year. They have them in patriotic color, so I picked up a Dollar Tree vase. This is kind of one of the shorter ones. And look at this great burlap they have with the 4th of July section. And then I picked up a little American flag patch in the crafter square. I love this burlap, but I thought it just screamed coastal 4th of July because burlap looks so coastal, and then it has the blue stars on there. So we are simply just going to cover the vase with it. I thought that'd be a really quick DIY. And so I'm just cutting it. I'm not even going to iron this one. Just cutting this first section that's about the same size as my vase, and just cutting a piece that's going to be a little bit bigger than my vase. And it does fray, so I'm trying to be careful with it as I cut it. You could always seal your ends with Mod Podge if you wanted. I'm using the red and the blue willow on this one, and then I'm also using the white glitter coral because I couldn't find the willow in white. That way I can do the red, white, and blue, but they all look really similar. So I just do a bead of hot glue here on the back of my vase, and once I got a nice straight line of the burlap, I glued that to it. I'm going to pull it tight. I'm only going to be attaching it to the back. It's going to be like a sleeve. Mine was a little bit long, so I'm going to trim it down a little bit, cutting with a grain so I can get another straight line on that burlap. And then I can go back and always trim the top and bottom. So I just do a bead of hot glue on that and glue it to itself, a quick little sleeve. And not too permanent. Like if I want to reuse this vase for something else, it's going to be really easy to pull that hot glue off the glass. So I just have a little bit of a extra burlap and frayed edges here on the bottom. I just trim that down so that it can sit well with no overlap of the burlap, and then I trim the top as well, trying to minimize the fraying and make it look nice there too. I'm not going to trim it out or anything like that. I'm just going to leave it with like burlap edges. I think that looks kind of cool. So that's what we have so far. I thought it would look even cuter to add an American flag to the front. So this is the American flag patch from the Crafter Square. They kind of have these all the time. I don't think they're necessarily 4th of July. And I'm just going to hot glue that on to the burlap. Having the burlap there really helps that glue and that round pattern to the vase, because you can glue it directly to the burlap. And we have a fun coastal patriotic vase. It looks coastal with the burlap, of course, and then we're going to be adding corals. So coral's very coastal as well. I picked up 6 of these. I did 2 of the red, 2 of the blue, and 2 of the white. So the vase is a nice size, so I don't think I'm going to have to trim it or anything. And I really don't need any kind of filler. You could use filler in it, but they kind of are going to fill up this vase really nicely. So I started with just kind of alternating, where I put them in there. You can kind of work with them to figure out how you like to display your coral, what looks best for you. I did it like this at first, and then I wasn't that happy with it, so I took them out and I kind of fanned them out like this, where they are like fans of coral. and then I can just layer them in like that. So that's what I ended up doing. I went red, white, blue, and then I kind of want red on the front too. So then I'm going to do white, blue, and red. All fanned out, but you can arrange them however you like. But that's what I ended up doing with mine. Really fun centerpiece for 4th of July, really easy, and it definitely has that coastal vibe with all of the coral.
Which you know that I love. I tried to mix in a lot of, traditional patriotic DIYs, but also throw in some coastal patriotic DIYs in today's video too for some fun variety. But I really love this, and I love that star pattern on the burlap.
Okay, the next DIY, I thought we could use some of these little metal star ornaments from the 4th of July section at Dollar Tree, and we could make a really cute, like, pennant banner with these. I don't know if it would be a pennant banner. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe a garland. And I picked up red, white, and blue. I thought they're really pretty. What do you guys think? They already have like red, white, and blue wood beads on them. So I thought I could use that too. And then I thought to make them look even a little bit more substantial, I could add some of the galvanized metal stars from the Crafter's Square at Dollar Tree to the back of those, just to make them even more special. But I think they would look pretty without it too. Just traded aside my pattern. I like to use like odd numbers when I do like a pennant banner like this. And so I decided red, blue, white, blue, red was the pattern I wanted to go with. And then I'm going to need 5 of these little galvanized metal stars. Now, I was trying to figure out how to attach that. I don't have any E6000 right now, and metal and hot glue doesn't always play nice, but we're going to try to make this work. So I'm going to start it with hot glue just by doing a bead of hot glue on the top ray. Only the top, because that's going to dry quickly, and I want it to be as strong as I can get it to keep it on there. And as you can see, it's just the right size to kind of peek out from behind these. Just make them a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do that on all of them. I do know there's no way that's going to hold them, because sometimes when I hot glue metal from the Dollar Tree, it holds like initially, but like immediately falls apart. If you don't use some other type of glue or something with those. But I think that's going to be a good start for these. So I'll show you how I reinforce that in just a little bit, but let me go ahead and hot glue all 5 of these on. And this would be cute hanging anywhere. You could hang this under a window, like on a fireplace, mantel, coffee bar, anywhere you can think, party table. It's really cute though, and it looks very high end. So I am just going to take some Dollar Tree twine to make the banner, and then just use that existing rope that was on the little metal star just to simply tie that over. That way I don't have to measure anything, the distance in between the two, because now I can slide them back and forth super easy. So I just do that on all of them. Just one simple knot over, tie it tight, and then I just cut off the excess twine to clean it up a little bit. So I was thinking, this is gonna fall apart. So this was my remedy. And I use a little hot glue on the back of the metal star to get it started. And I use some more of that twine and some more hot glue kind of on both sides. And then I'm gonna take that twine and wrap it around, like kind of gluing and tying the two pieces together till I get to the end, and then kind of pull that through the little metal round hanger that was on the top of the star on front, and tie that off to kind of tie it to each other as well. And I think that's going to make it hold up. It provided a lot more stability to them, because I could just tell they were just waiting to fall apart. So I'm going to do the same thing
on the rest of these stars. And if you didn't need this many, you could always do 3. You can make a shorter one, just a red, white, and blue. That would be really cute too. You're probably going to want to stick to odd numbers. It always looks better when you hang it that way. You could always go longer as well if you had like a fireplace mantle. But I think they turned out really cute. I was looking for some way to use these little metal stars. I think these are new. I've never seen these at the Dollar Tree before in the 4th of July aisle. And it was one of the few items that I was excited to see because they just did not come out with like any of like that plain wood decor or anything like that for us crafters for the 4th of July. Just very, very minimal. Very disappointed in their selection because I always love to decorate for the 4th of July. I don't know about you. This would be really cute decor for any patriotic holiday though. You could also use it for Memorial Day and I guess like even like, you know, Labor Day or any kind of holiday, Flag Day, Veterans Day. We have so many holidays where we can decorate patriotic decor. And I'm just going to finish off the last one. Just hot glue the back, wrap it around, and then tie it off with that little metal loop there on the top. And I think that's going to work. Let me show you how these look hanging up. I just kind of hung these on my coat tree that I use to display most of my items, but I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put this. Really cute for like a mantle or something like that. You can make yours as long as you need it, or you could also hang it like from a shelf or something like that, or maybe even above a doorway would be really cute. But I love these metal stars and I'm always looking for ways to DIY these. I have made wind chimes and all kinds of fun things with these, but here it is as a garland. I want to make a big sign, and to do that, I'm going to take 3 of these little wall shelves from the Dollar Tree and put them together to make a big sign. This is another way you can use Dollar Tree materials to make a large project. And I think that's going to be just about the size I need. So I'm just going to take these all out of the package. Now I picked out 3 of them that kind of looked similar, but when I stain these, you'll see that they all completely stain differently, which maybe adds to the character, but they're a nice thick sign. They don't really bow very much. And I love making DIYs with them because they're thick enough that you can glue them together and make like a substantial sign without having to brace it on the back. So I just do a bead of hot glue all along the edge and then push 2 of them together. If you have any hot glue that like seeps out, it's pretty easy just to peel that off right there at the seam. What I want to do on this DIY is I want to make a coastal 4th of July sailboat. And I was thinking that you could totally do that on a sign instead of doing like, I've done like several of the 3D like sailboats for 4th of July, but I've never done a sign for one. So I wanted to try that out. Now, I want a very light stain. I was thinking almost like driftwood stain. So I took Antique Wax by Waverly and I mixed it together with water, quite a bit of water. And I'm just wanting a very light stain to bring out that wood grain. And then I just wipe it off with a paper towel. This is what I'm talking about. See how differently they all stain? The one in the middle didn't really want to stain near as well as the other 2, and they all completely had different patterns. So I did have to stain the one in the middle a couple of times, but again, it's going to add to the character. I want coastal farmhouse, right? So it shouldn't be like perfect, but I think it kind of looks a little bit cool like that. Okay, so I'm going to use another one of those chair covers from the Dollar Tree. I love these. I think these are a fun way to craft for 4th of July. One of the few products that I like from the Dollar Tree 4th of July section. And I was trying to decide how I wanted to do the sails. I knew that I wanted to do one sail with the star pattern and one sail with the stripe pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out where I have the stars here on one side and the stripes on the other. So I cut out the stripe portion. And I just need a straight edge here for the bottom. So I just cut straight across.
Then I just need this to be a triangle shape like you would have for a sail. I did want to use a straight edge though, because I didn't know how well I could estimate that. And so I just draw a straight line on there and then just cut the sail all the way up. This fabric, it does fray a tiny bit, but nothing significant. Just a few strings here and there that you can easily trim off. So that is that side of the sailboat. And then I thought we could use the flag star pattern to do the other side. So I'm going to cut a straight line there for this side of the sail, and I want it to be a little bit shorter. That way they'll kind of offset each other like that. And again, I am just going to have to cut that again. I'm trying to figure out how wide I want it. Once I figure that out again, I can just use an ink pen and a straight edge to kind of give me a reference line to help me cut this out a little bit better. And that is going to be the star side of our sailboat. Super cute, right? And so easy to make this DIY. Now, I was thinking I needed like a dowel for the middle part of the sailboat. My first thought was to use these wooden dowels, which I found them to be a little small. So I'll show you what I end up using. But I'm going to go ahead and glue down my sails just using a Mod Podge. And this is the same material that we used for our little mermaid tail. And so you can see that it's super thin. It just kind of blends in with the sign. So if you really wanted your like white lines to pop, you might want to do your background sign in white. I kind of wanted that wood look though. That's why I stained mine. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down the star side of the sail the same way with some Mod Podge, leaving a gap in between the two sails. That's when I was like, I think this dowel is too small. And the other day when I was in Dollar Tree, I found these. Check out these new dowels they have. You come two in a package and they are much more substantial than the ones that you used to be able to get, right? I am just going over that star part with a little bit more Mod Podge. I thought that it was coming up a little bit and I wanted to secure that. And I think this is going to be the perfect size. I don't want it to blend in though with the wood on the background. And so I'm just going to stain it with some Antique Wax by Waverly and give that like medium stain. I'm not going to need the entire dowel. I'm just going to need most of it. Now I'm using my miter scissors to cut this. Normally with Dollar Tree dowels, it's super easy, but I really had to want this. So I can't say it's easy. It was kind of like cutting like a Jenga block from the Dollar Tree with them. Not easy. You might want to use a saw instead. If you need to shorten yours, or you can make your sailboat a little bit longer, because you can always make your sign a little bit bigger. And I just hot glue that down in between the two sails. I'm not going to have like any string attaching it. It's just going to be kind of like abstract, right? And then it's time to build the boat. I wanted it to kind of have like a driftwood feel, but I wanted to use items from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to use some of these little wood stems they have. And I thought we could just build the whole boat out with these and just kind of alternate them. I want to kind of alternate different colors, sizes, finishes, make it look real random. And then I'm just simply hot gluing those to the sign. And it's kind of like when you do a driftwood project, it's kind of like just a puzzle. You're going to kind of want to test pieces and see if they're going to fit and what's going to look the best. And I think that looks really cool. See all the different colors and stuff like that? I notice when I get these wood stems from the Dollar Tree, they either come kind of skinny like this, or they come really short and fat ones. And so I do kind of separate mine out. These are mainly my skinnier ones that I've gotten at the Dollar Tree. And as you can see, each row, I'm just making it a little bit shorter so we can get that like boat shape where it's like wider at the top. And then I'm just going to keep doing that until I have a boat here. And that was so easy to do. And I think it turned out really cute. Just cleaning up any strings of hot glue with my heat gun. And then I wanted to also add some more touches to this, and I thought fireworks. Now, I do have some of these window clings from the Dollar Tree. Let me show you how that looks. I wanted to kind of test it out. I peeled off like a couple of the fireworks. Wasn't really happy with them having the background like that. And you could use those, but I thought maybe we could make our own fireworks on there and kind of make it look even better. So this window decal also has stars on it. And so I just decided to use a couple of the stars because I kind of like that in the middle of the firework. And it's going to kind of be a starter piece on each side. So I just Mod Podged those little window clings to the sky above both sides of our sailboat. And then I just use a red paint pen and kind of using the decals as reference, have an exploding fireworks over here. And I'm going to alternate like white in between each line to give this a little bit more color. Super easy to make a firework. And then this one, I'm going to have these go like straight out like it's exploding and white in between each one of those too. And who knew that was super easy to do? Now I used that rope that came with the shelf and I just put a little hot glue on the tip just to make it easier to feed back through the hole here. And I'm just going to use that to make a hanger. This would be a really cute sign too. If you had like a fireplace or something like that and you wanted to lean it against the wall, or if you had somewhere to lean it, it'd be a really cute leaning sign too. But I wanted mine to be a hanging sign. So I'm just going to knot that white twine right on the front to make a simple hanger. And this DIY is complete. I'm so glad I finally made this. I've been thinking about this boat for like months.
And it turned out exactly how I wanted. Really fun. I love using those wood shelves for crafting. I always have some of those in stock in my crafting stash. But using some patriotic fabrics for the sail of this took like a sailboat and made it a sign. So I really love that. I think that was really fun to do. And if you don't have the wood stems, you could also like use wood chopped into pieces. Okay, the next DIY is I'm going to use one of the chair covers from the 4th of July section at Dollar Tree. I love using these for crafting. They're great. They're big. I thought this would be a perfect, like, large outdoor flag pillow for my bench in my entryway. So it's big enough to actually cover like a regular pillow, like a bed pillow. So that's what we're going to try it with. It does have a lot of wrinkles in it though from the way that it was folded up in packaging. So I'm just going to give it a quick iron. No high temperatures or anything. I didn't really know how well this material would hold up. But it's kind of like polyester feeling. I think it's going to hold up well for an outdoor pillow. I think I'm going to put it on my bench near my front door of my house. And I think this is going to be so festive and fun. This is just an old bed pillow that I have, just a standard size. Did have a pattern on it, and the chair cover is very thin. I thought you'd be able to see the pattern through, but I do have some of these pillow covers with the zippers that kind of protect your pillows. So I'm actually going to put one of those over it first. I guess it will actually protect the pillow too, and it will help prevent that pattern from coming through on my white stripes of my flag. So I'm just going to put my pillow right in there, and look how it is just the perfect size for this. No stuffing or anything, just a full size bed pillow right inside. And this is just one of those cheap like $3 pillows, I think, from Target. And it's a little tight here at the bottom, but what we're going to do is just do a no-sew pillow just by using hot glue to attach that fourth wall, because all the other ones are already sewn. So almost all the work is done. And I don't know why I never thought of turning this into a pillow before, but I just looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, it is calling to be a pillow for my entryway. And it's so large and nice. And it was really inexpensive to make. I'm just using an old pillow, a $1.25 chair cover, and I did have to use a pillow cover as well, but I already had that. So I'm just using hot glue, working one section at a time. It was a little tight. I was trying to hot glue the cover to itself and not to the pillow. So I just kind of smush the pillow up in there as much as I can and try to keep everything as flat as I can. straight across, making sure I glue up the entire seam. Now, if you want to get fancy, you could do like a burlap trim or something around the edges, but I really kind of like the simplicity of just the flag design on this one. And it was so easy to make. I actually can't believe it. And you can see it's taking up my entire workbench. It's nice and large. And I'm going to show it to you inside my house, but tomorrow I'm going to be moving this on the bench outside. This was such an easy flag pillow cover. Absolutely a no-brainer. Something I would definitely use before I would use it as a chair cover, because these normally don't fit any chairs that I have. But as a pillow cover, I think it works out perfect, and it is the traditional American flag. For this DIY, I wanted to make a flag and I wanted to give it a little different approach. I've made a lot of coastal flags here on my channel and I wanted to do something besides starfish. And so I'm actually going to use dolphins and palm trees to make this flag. I have a square sign from the Dollar Tree, a red craft bag for the fabric, and then I found these napkins. They say they're from Target. I don't remember buying these at Target though. Maybe I did. I thought I bought them on Temu. I guess I could have bought them on Temu and they say Target. I don't know. But they are like a pastel turquoise color with white palm trees all over. So I thought the palm trees would make great stars for our flag. So I'm just going to decoupage that on to this section up here at the top. I thought that would be really fun. And I do want to use the wood panel since this is a wood panel sign. So I will cut kind of individual strips of this. But for this part, I'm just going to go ahead and cut a square down and Mod Podge this on. This napkin was actually pretty sturdy. Maybe the Target napkins are a little bit better than the ones I get at Dollar Tree for decoupage because I didn't have any problems with wrinkling or anything. I just put a very thin coat of Mod Podge on my wood sign, and I'm going to go right up here to the corner. And I thought this was a fun take for the star part of the flag. And it's just going to be a square flag, not a rectangular one. So you can kind of mix it up if you want. It's your flag. Once I got that dry, I went over it again with another thin coat of Mod Podge to seal that on there. And then I'm going to make the red part of the flag, actually most of it, is going to be this red craft fabric from the Dollar Tree. And what I want to do is make white dolphin stripes across it for the stripes. I thought that'd be really fun. But I thought this red fabric bag would add a fun texture to the sign. Gluing that on with Mod Podge as well for our stripes, and it's just the right size as you can see. There is a seam at the top though, so I will have to use the rest of that bag for my fourth and final stripe on this. But the bottom two sections are going to go all the way across. But again, I kind of want to work one section at a time. I did realize that you could see through it more than I thought, so I may have made this little section a little bit too wide, so I just cut it and kind of peeled off any of the excess napkin here because I noticed that you could see it through the red fabric. I didn't think you'd be able to, but you could, and I want it to be more of a square. And then I'm also going to kind of trim up this paper now that it's dry, cut off any of the napkin that is in the grooves and also recut the hole there for the hanger. Now we can get started on the red fabric. I'm going to work with it in a couple of parts. So I cut it in half here so I can do the two stripes here at the bottom. And I want to try to use my straighter edges. I find that I cut a little bit straighter with a razor blade than I do with my scissors. So I'm going to use that for my straight line here. And I'm using a lot of Mod Podge for the fabric because I need it to be really strong to keep this on here. And then I just go over it with a dry paper towel to smooth that out, using my razor blade to cut that into the groove. I love these slatted board signs from the Dollar Tree. They're my favorite. They come in so many different shapes and sizes too, and some with frames, some without, like this one. And then I'm going to use my straight edge here that I cut here for the bottom, gluing that on with Mod Podge as well. And once that starts to dry, I can cut off the excess fabric there as well. The top two stripes are going to be a little bit smaller in size, but I think we can make that work around that part. And I wanted most of it to be red so that I could go over it with something white to make the stripes. That's why I'm not alternating like colors with the red and white stripes. And once I get it on there and starts to dry, I can kind of flip it over and cut off the excess fabric. Now, I was trying to be patient with this and letting it dry because these materials from the Dollar Tree, like these little craft bags are made out of, just do not respond well to heat. You'll see, I'm going to melt part of it here in just a minute because I got impatient by waiting for it to dry and I used a little bit of heat. But I would encourage you, if you're going to use this material, definitely do not use your heat gun or blow dryer. I'm going to need one more section here for the top so I don't get like that seam that was on the top of the bag. And I'm just going to glue this part on here too. I find it easier to get a couple straight edges like that, and it's because it's easier to cut off from the back as well. This was me being impatient, and look what it did. But luckily, it melted the fabric over on the side where I didn't need it. But that's why that's why I was trying to be patient because I knew that was going to happen. And then cut another hole there for the hanger. I can use the hanger that came with it, but this time I want the knots to be on the front. So I just fed that through and then I can just knot it here on this side. This was such a fun DIY and one of the only shore living items I can find this year at some of my Dollar Trees are these little beach shapes like this, like the dolphins or the sea turtles or something like that. So I'm going to use some of my dolphins. If you wanted to switch it up and do different creatures, you could, but I like the fact that they're kind of all the same. I think it's going to form a nice stripe. And these are like the little makeup sponges that I get on Amazon. I think I have those in my Amazon shop. They're really inexpensive since I haven't been able to find them at Dollar Tree forever. And I kind of gave up asking. But I'm going to paint those with a couple of coats of white to really make these pop against those red flag stripes. Once I get those all painted and dry, we can start putting this together. So I'm going to have like the red stripe on top and then the white stripe will be 2 white dolphins kind of end to end here. And I'm going to do the same thing on every one. So for these 2 top ones, I have enough for 2 dolphins. On the bottom 2 rows, I have enough room for 4 dolphins. And so I just glue those all on. This project had so many fun different textures on it. I really love how it turned out. It was so easy. This is it, our little palm tree and dolphin flag for the 4th of July. A really fun way to use some of those little beachy wood shapes they had at the Dollar Tree. I did not use mine, so I have tons of these things left over from the Shore Living line. I try to avoid using Shore Living in my Patriotic DIYs, but for this, I thought it would be perfect for some white dolphin flag stripes on this one, and I love the palm trees as well.
Okay, the next DIY, I picked up one of the red and one of the blue, like little mason jar cups they have right now, and 2 of the little patriotic solar lights. I thought it would be so easy to make these into little solar lights that you could use on your front porch or your walkway for the 4th of July, or you use these for party decor. And I still have some of those white star stickers. So on the blue one, I'm just going to simply add some of the white star stickers kind of in a random pattern. And that's going to be decor, but it's also going to like make stars like reflect when this lights up at night. And I'll show you that here in a minute. It turned out pretty cool. I also just cut down 2 strips of white vinyl for my Cricut. And I'm just going to try to straighten these up a little bit to make those lines look straighter because they're kind of a hot mess. And I cut off just 2. I think 2 white stripes is going to be enough because I want to do like a red and white stripe pattern on the little mason jar and then add the lights to the top. I recently did a solar light video where I did 20 ideas to make DIYs with these solar lights from the Dollar Tree. I love using them. They are so fun to decorate outside. And you're probably going to have to use them outside because you're going to need the sun to recharge the little solar lights. But I've been pleasantly surprised with how well those have been working. So for the white stripe, I just kind of stretch it out, try to keep it as flat as I can to try to avoid any wrinkles in that. But if you get some, you can probably smooth those out fairly easily. And then do a second stripe. My stripes still aren't super straight. You could also use like if you had like a white like electrical tape, that would be just the right size for stripes as well on these. And this one's going to give me like a kind of stripe pattern when it lights up at night. But it looks like a flag with the blue and white stars, the red and white stripes. So I think they make a perfect pair and so easy to do. I can just save those lids to use on other jars. My son always likes drinks with lids on them with straws. And then I just need to find a way to attach this to it. I'm glad that it still has like a star pattern on it, even when I take it off the solar light. I'm just going to use the very end because I found that the little plastic part there concentrates the light and makes the whole jar not shine. So you want to use just the very tippy top. It's a little bit smaller than the width of the little jars. And so I'm going to kind of just use twine to glue it on and some hot glue. That way it will be kind of temporary too if I wanted to reuse these. But I think these should hold up. We'll find out how the batteries do in storage when I store these for next year. So just along that seam between the solar light and the jar, I am doing a bead of hot glue and using just some of that Dollar Tree thin twine and filling that gap in. That is going to attach it to the jar. Then I'm just going to wrap that twine around for decorative purposes and to cover up like the screw part of the jar lid. And I'm not looking for perfect coverage on that, just for a little bit of decor and to fill that area in. So there is like our little red and white stripe one. And then this one is going to be the blue star solar light. These were so easy to DIY. These would be great for a party, but you know, these would be great for outdoor decor as well. I always like some outdoor decorations for 4th of July. And I've posted a lot of 4th of July videos so far this year, and I have done outdoor DIYs, including like wreaths and porch sitters and different things like that too, if you need more decorating ideas for outside. So I just glued that twine, wrapped it around like I did on the first one, and we have 2 little patriotic 4th of July solar lights, and they were so easy to make.
The jars are pretty heavy duty, so they should stand up on their own. You don't have to worry about staking them to the ground. So these could be great to like line your sidewalk with, especially if you were having a party, to make little solar lanterns going down. Really easy if you can find some of the tinted jars like this, or you can even create your own if you're going to be using like some Mod Podge and some food coloring. But I love the light pattern at night. I think they're so bright. Now, have you seen the door banners this year? These are really nice. I couldn't believe how well these are made. I'm not going to have to do hardly anything to this. It is almost the perfect size to cover the glass next to my front door. And it has the stars in the stripe pattern, has a built-in hanger on the top. The only thing I was afraid of is that the wind in Florida, it's going to be going all over the place, and I want it to be weighed down. So that's basically the only thing I'm going to do to this. I picked up some Dollar Tree craft wood. It's a little smaller than the width of it, which is going to be perfect. There are like grommets built in the bottom of it. I don't really have any nails or screws with heads that big, so I'm just going to attach it with hot glue on the back and basically weighing it down like you would weigh down like a curtain or something like that to keep this from flying around and keep it on my window next to my front door. So easy to put together. They also have these with like words on them and stuff like that. I kind of like the simplicity of just the flag pattern like that. And I'm going to go outside and hang it at night, even though it's nighttime, because I wanted to show you how it looked. We're just going to turn on the porch light here. This is what it looks like lit up. It's really cute. It fits this like little window area I have next to my door perfectly. I only have it on one side of my door. If you had it on both sides, I think that would look really cute too. The wood at the bottom definitely kept it from flying around in the Florida wind, but I love the way it looks lit up at night. I think that is perfect for the 4th. I found this adorable like seagrass tier tray at the Target dollar spot. It was only $5. And what I wanted to do was a small tier tray because sometimes you don't have very much room, but you want to add a little bit of 4th of July fun. Now, this is a shore living fish sign from previous years. Super cute. I didn't see this one this year, but they do have, you know, like the wood fish that you could always paint. I love this one the way that it is. So I think this is going to be a cute little piece to sit on the top of my tier tray right there. I'm just going to simply take the hanger off and sit it on the top of the tier tray. Then I wanted like a little beach house in there, and I picked these up at the Target Dollar Spot too. Just some little chunky wood houses, but there's like a million options for like little houses like this at the Dollar Tree as well. I liked these because they were already like looking coastal, right, with the colors and the stars and stripes. But I wanted to make them like a little bit more coastal. So these are some little tiny starfish that I get on Amazon. Again, these are linked in my store below. I buy these in like the, you know, natural cream ivory, but I also like to buy these in blue. Look how cute they are. They're real little starfish and they're like dyed blue. And I'm just going to glue those onto the stars. So it didn't even really have to have stars on there. I just have like the wood with a stripe on a house with little starfish on there for the stars. And this is such a small tier tray that really only a couple items can fit on it, but it's perfect for like an entryway where you don't have a lot of room. So I think that looks super sweet, and I think that's really all it needs. I like the colors and everything on that, our little starfish house. Then I wanted to make another DIY, so I'm going to use a Dollar Tree sign. And then I found this great number 4 at the Target Dollar Spot for $1. I think it was just a house letter, but, you know, I'm not going to miss the opportunity for a 4 for the 4th of July, right? And then these signs from the Dollar Tree are those great wood signs that have, like, the little pop-out sign on the front. And I'm just going to cover that up with some of that removable wallpaper from the Dollar Tree that kind of looks like the white boards. That's going to give it a nice coastal feel and make this a blank. This year they have like the actual blanks are a little bit bigger, but that would work as well. And then I thought we would attach like the 4 to the front of that. I did want to kind of tone it down a little bit, so I take a little ivory and distress all over just to tone down like the little line between the boards, and just to give it more of an ivory touch. And then for the 4, I want it to stand out bold. So we're going to paint the 4 red. And I'm just going over it with a paint pen. Easy peasy. It's just going to be a simple number 4 sign. It's going to get the point across. That's the 4th of July, right? And just something super easy. So once I get that painted red and dry, I'm just going to hot glue that on our little Dollar Tree sign. And this, I think, is going to be the perfect size to fit on this small little tier tray. Kind of standing it up on the back, but on the other side where it kind of peeks out from behind the house. Then I'm just going to fill it up with some Dollar Tree seashells all over, just for fun. Makes a great filler, especially for a tiny tray like this where you're not going to fit much more on there. And then a little American flag from the Dollar Tree is going to be the final touch. And I just stand that right on top, kind of threading it in the little hole against the hanger. Now, the little fish I have there was from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. Pretty standard thing that you might be able to find just about anywhere, some kind of a fish, and you could even paint it if you needed to. But I think that one was perfect for the blue and white stripes. But I just took some really easy items, some things that I found, some things that I already had, added some seashells, and made a really easy patriotic tier tray. It is now time for the final reveal. Let me know which DIYs were your favorite down in the comments below, or just come say hello. I love reading your comments. This is my QR code. If you would like to buy me a coffee, I would really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the final reveal.
Baby, on the 4th of July.
In America, stars and stripes don't look so bad. Fake news feeds me and makes me mad. Oh, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. In America, things catch fire. In America, and no one tires. In America, stars and stripes blind you. Can't you see? While she tangos with liberty. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Oh, oh, yeah. In America, whoa, whoa.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's patriotic 4th of July DIY video. That always helps my videos. And I'd also like to thank my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you so much to Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Shiner, Maren Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Red Mama, Renee Albanese, Pal Puppy Life, Ginny, Debbie Austin, Lizette Thomas, Amy Branham, Mary Renzel Park, and Leanna Thomas, our newest member. I really appreciate you, and we would love to have you join the Crafty Beach Bum membership. And if you would like more patriotic Dollar Tree DIYs, be sure to check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting for the 4th of July.